What's going on, guys? Welcome back to LOI Fan TV. I'm joined today by the one and only Socko. We're going to have a quick chat about the international break. Obviously, we saw Ireland win 4-1 over Andorra last week, and of course, they drew last night 0-0 against Hungary in the international friendly, of course. So yeah, we're kind of just addressing whether are we seeing Ireland starting to make progress under Stephen Kenny? That's the big question we're going to be asking today. A couple of different talking points we're going to be touching on. But first of all, Socko, how are you keeping? I know your internet's acting up a little bit, so you're on your hotspot.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I only caught half of that. I think you asked me how it was. Yeah, very well. Much better after them to performances as well.
Can't really make out what you're hearing.
And a half. Two good for.
Can't hear a word. Listen, we made it. Kind of make it a little bit bits and pieces of it. What you were saying. Okay, I think Socko might be gone. We'll see what the story is there. But yeah, I think he's just touching on how it was two good performances in those two games. Not ideal. Got life from a brick. Yeah, I think you might need Google Translate. Spot on, yeah. But yeah, we touched on a few different things, of course. Obviously starting off with the kind of formations. Obviously we saw Stephen Kenny adopt two different formations in both games. In Andorra, we saw them operating with a 4-2-3-1, of course. And I thought that was an interesting one. Obviously, we saw them go with the 5 at the back in the previous two qualifiers. And so to go back to the 4-2-3-1, seemed like a good idea. James McLean left back was always an interesting shout. The first half was poor against Andorra. There's no two ways about it, really. But second half was a definite improvement. We saw the likes of Daryl Horgan coming off the bench having a great impact. Jason Knight was good. And there was a couple of other decent performances. Gavin Bazunu is another one who was impressive across both games as well. We'll get on to players that impressed and players that I thought were poor later on in the stream. Hopefully we can get Socko back at some stage as well. But yeah, the Andorra game it was poor. The first half was really bad, but the second half there was much improved, and I think the goal 1-0 down was it's shocking, really, isn't it? It's terrible, but the fact that we showed a lot to get back into the game, showed a bit of courage, showed a little bit more on the ball. I know it took a while to get into it, but we have a lot of young players, and it can be tough. It was a big opportunity for someone to step up and grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and Troy Parrott did do that. It would have been easy for him to kind of hide away, and it wouldn't really be put on him. Obviously, as only a young fella, it'll be put on kind of the older players for the need to step up. But he really stood up and took us out of a hole. And that first goal he scored was fantastic, driving forward and bearing. It was really, really good finish as well. And then we kind of took off from there then. But yeah, the Andorra game overall, it was just good to get the first win for Stephen Kenny. That was the main thing about it, getting the win under his belt, and moving on from there. Obviously last night we saw them go back to the 5-3-2 formation, and I think I like the way that they kind of mix it up and just kind of fluidity about it, and they're kind of comfortable in both formations. I like the way we have that option of playing against maybe stronger teams with a 5 at the back. Gives us more of a solid base, and then we can play maybe a 4-2-3-1 against the weaker teams like the Andorras and stuff. And I think looking back at it now, if Stephen Kenny could go back in time, I think he'd operate with a 4-2-3-1 against Luxembourg. I don't think he'd play the 5 at the back. The 5 at the back worked well against Serbia away because we were on the back foot for a lot of the game, but against Luxembourg at home, going with a 5 at the back, I don't think was the right call, and I think Stephen Kenny knows that on reflection. So it's good to have the two different systems to work with for future games. If we have Socko back here, hopefully. I think he's a little bit better.
Is that better?
A lot better. I think I can hear you all perfectly now.
Sorry, it's turned into Marco Reardon there.
Yeah. I was just touching on the different systems we played, the different formations. It's interesting to see that we played two different formations in the two games. It's good to see we have the two different options.
Yeah, definitely. I think the more options, the better. I don't know how much of an influence Seamus Coleman being out of the Hungary game was on that. You have to take into account like both the levels of both opposition as well. I don't think judging the formation off one game for good or for bad is a good idea. You can take bits and pieces from it, but I don't think you can.
Yeah.
I think you just have to bear in mind the opposition you're playing. We were really poor for best part of an hour versus Andorra. I have it here. Kind of playing a kind of 4-3-3 almost. I know Troy Parrott kind of dropped in a fair bit for that game, and we were very poor for an hour. Whereas on the other hand, we had the back five, with three centre backs and the wing backs last night, which seemed to work a treat. Like you're defending almost with six defenders when you're kind of under pressure, and then once you kind of get the ball up to the other box, two of the wing backs fly forward and you're almost attacking with a front five or a front six. So I like the three centre backs personally. I suppose he's getting a better idea of what he can do in these friendlies, because there's no time for fucking around. We've 3 World Cup qualifiers in a week in September, so I think hopefully he'll have a lot to think about after them 2 games.
Yeah, just the point I was making on the formations was it's good to have the 2 different formations for the different opposition we're going to come up against strong opposition. Having that 5 at the back gives us a better base defensively to work from, whereas maybe playing against like a smaller nation like an Andorra or a team where we're going to have a lot of the ball, maybe like the 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 works really well. I think as well as I say, maybe looking back upon reflection, the 5 at the back worked really well against Serbia and Belgrade. Then it didn't work so well against Luxembourg at home, so maybe a 4-2-3-1 would have worked better against Luxembourg at home, possibly, where we were supposed to have more of the ball, I suppose. So maybe Kenny's kind of learning a little bit about his team, and over the 10 days, he's had a lot more time to work with them, and that's been positive from that point of view, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think he got a lot of criticism last year for just sticking to his formation, what he wanted to do. He was kind of reluctant to. There's a lot of comment about like the Coleman Doherty situation, and if he was to play 3 centre backs. Yeah, great point about last March, like setting up the same way against Luxembourg, really kind of shot ourselves in the foot there. Whereas to have that flexibility depending on the opposition you're facing is a huge asset to have. Like you're expecting to be on the front foot and play against the likes of Andorra and win. Whereas Hungary, I think they're unbeaten in 10, heading off to the Euros next week, of course. Full house there last night at the away game. You'd almost take a 0-0. You'd just be a little bit more like we're all for playing possession football and on the front foot, but just a little bit of pragmatism. I really like to see that from him. It was just that 3 centre backs just give us a little bit more cover because Hungary had that bit more quality, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a great option going forward. Like I think Gunnar Martin and Mick and Trapattoni, like I think they were very just stuck to what they knew, and I can't remember like if it was 4-2-2 or 4-3-3, but I think it was exclusively 4-2-2 with Mick, I think. So to have that flexibility is it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, and maybe that's the Anthony Barry factor, because I don't think we played the 5 at the back until he came in, and obviously that's kind of an influence he's had upon the dressing room, and it's I think it gives you a real belief looking and knowing that he's an elite coach and he's in our dressing room. I think that's a massive bonus, and you can see kind of his impact starting to come into it a little bit, hopefully, working with Kenny. So yeah, I've been impressed by him so far. Even I think it was a corner against Qatar, wasn't it? Like I think he's a set piece coach at Chelsea. So I think we worked a really good set piece against Qatar. So I'm excited for Anthony Barry to keep continually working with the squad with Kenny. And I think it was definitely a positive 10 days on the training pitch as well. And it must have been so weird. working with Mason Mount and then working with Ronan Curtis the next week. Like,
yeah, we were saying just after Chelsea won the Champions League, the last thing you want to do is go out to play Andorra now. But no, like I don't know, to be honest, I'm trying to make myself look not as red in the face there. Like, I don't know how he came to, if he was offered the job or he was looking for like more international experience, but when that was announced, I was like, Jesus, like I was saying to you before, he came in for the first half of this season, and Frank and most of his staff left then when Tuchel came in. But I think Barry took the day or two training, and Tuchel came in and saw him and kept him on, and he's been crucial. Like, it's very rare Chelsea have conceded from a set piece this year, and he not only does that, he creates like certain situations. His knowledge of the game is really, really good. Like, Tuchel speaks really highly of him, as do others. He's a bit of a set piece specialist, but he offers a lot more than that. Like, I think he's a great man manager as well. You always see him having a word in whether it's Reece James or Mason Mount's ear, and I've seen that against Andorra and Hungary. Like, he's full of knowledge. And the few press conferences I've been on, like, everyone's spoken really highly of him. John Egan said that all the players are like sponges. They just want to soak up as much as they can. And not only to have the Chelsea assistant manager there, to have a Champions League winning coach is huge for the team. And hopefully we'll see the results towards the end of the year. I suppose, yeah, I'd agree with you there. Like, it's been a positive camp overall. It's Kenny's first extended COVID-free camp with the squad, to work on his tactics, to work on all they need to work on, and even more so, just to have the lads together again and not just play your match and go back up to your hotel room. Like, it was well documented kind of in March and then last year how usually they'd have a bit of a sing-song, might have a drink, a big meal. The Irish camps are famous for the crack, and they're not really like any other international camp, but they haven't been able to do that as much as they liked to. So this was the first opportunity and of course you have all the young players coming in as well. So Stephen Kenny was talking about like ping pong tournaments, and said Shane Duffy won that, and the few sing-songs they had, and that more so than anything can only do the squad good. The only black spot I'd say was that goal conceded against Andorra. From a set piece, we totally switched off. I suppose we'll come to that, but definitely after last night's performance, it'll leave you. And I think it was important to leave on a good mark as well, because I think it's 11 weeks until Portugal away. I think we have Serbia, Azerbaijan, 3 qualifiers in a week. So I know it's a bit of a lost cause and slim chances, but even if we have a slim chance of qualifying, you still want to go out and give it a good account of yourselves.
Yeah, like. Oh, absolutely. I thought it was interesting as well. A lot of players were quite vocal on social media, following the camp being ended or whatever, saying like, "Oh, great 10 days out with the lads, and I can't wait to get back going again." And it's the first time I've seen that under Kenya, I think, where I've seen that many players being vocal about being looking forward to the next camp, which can only be good news. Did you get a feeling of certain people who were probably Kenny out, that when the Andorra goal went in, they were like, "Oh, please let them win this," nearly like where they were kind of hoping for Kenny's downfall a bit?
I think there'll always be people like that. You've had past players and kind of managers and people in the media who almost had we've gone over this loads of times, but people who almost had their minds made up about the guy before a ball was kicked, even before his first game. And it's well documented. Like, obviously he'd wanted to do better. You can go over the difficulties and COVID stuff that he's had, but there's no doubt, like, if we had to come out of there, even with a draw, there'd be massive questions to be asked there. There's a lot of people saying that Troy Parrott almost saved his job. Like, I don't think that's too much of a stretch. 2 goals in 3 minutes. I think that 6 minutes when we were 1-0 down was the longest in my life. I was starting to think, holy God, like what is happening?
I did anyway. When I thought, if you had lost Andorra, it's hard to find words. You just need to beat them. Like,
yeah, I agree. One of the guys put it really well. Like a game like that is a black box. Like you only hear about something like that if something goes wrong. You're expected to win, and it's not really newsworthy. I suppose the Troy Parrott and Knight and Horgan all getting their first goals is newsworthy, but other than that, I'm not sure you can take a whole lot from it. But the whole, not even the goal, but the first 55 minutes was pretty concerning. When they pressed us high, we struggled. I know they sat back in a kind of 4-4-2. And their midfield and their defense was really, really tight, so there wasn't much space to exploit at all. We struggled to find a way through there.
We had one in the first half. We had one nice move where Jason Knight got a ball into the box and Collins should have scored. It was a nice work.
How we missed that. Like,
we'll get on to players that were poor, players that were impressed in a bit, but that's definitely one we'll be talking about, I'd say.
God forgot, I was in a good mood now before you reminded me about that. But yeah, definitely the first 55 minutes against Andorra was pretty concerning. The character they showed to come back into it was I liked. Got the job done in the end, got out of there, and last night's performance will come on to, I suppose, much better, much improved, much more solid all around. It's kind of up to yourself how much you want to take from it. I think that training, 10 days in the training pitches will be invaluable. And it's a huge task. Exciting, but 3 qualifiers in a week next September is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's Portugal,
Serbia, Azerbaijan.
Yeah. You want, I don't know, like, how many points would need from that to have a chance, but like, probably need to have a shock or two in there, I think, if you had any chance of getting through. On that, TJ Minnock asks, what do you think will be the next tournament Ireland will qualify for? Realistically, for being serious about it, I think everyone knows that the World Cup is out of the question. Obviously, we're going to give it a good bash, but the loss to Luxembourg has more or less condemned us to not being at the World Cup in Qatar. So probably the next tournament, you'd like to think we'd be closer to having a decent go at. The one after that, definitely, the Euro, what would that be, Euro 2024? Yeah, something like that. You'd like to think that possibly we'll have a good bash, and then the World Cup 2026 as well is when we'll have a lot, because we do have a lot of really good young players coming through. Even there's like 15 and 16-year-old from Shamrock Rovers going over to Roma and stuff. Like, there's a lot of good young talent coming through, and potentially a golden generation. I joke. But even looking at, we're touching on some of the players that impressed, this is really positive for the future. And that I thought I was very impressed by both goalkeepers, Bazunu and Kelleher, who featured for us across both games. Obviously, Bazunu played the 90 against Andorra, didn't he? And then Kelleher played 45 against Hungary, and both of them were really good, I thought.
Yeah, I think Kenny said last week that if Kelleher would have started last March if he wasn't injured, so that gave Bazunu his chance. I think he played against Qatar, and then Luxembourg, and then Qatar. Really impressive in both games. Didn't put a foot wrong. Didn't put a foot wrong in Andorra. When they did press us high, his distribution was a bit iffy. I think he kicked it over the end line a few times. We kind of struggled to deal with their press, probably the only thing. And the first 45 against Hungary was pretty impressive, and that save, my God, that save was 10 out of 10. Will do him the world of good. And looking forward now, I was saying to you earlier, I don't think anyone really challenged Shay Given properly in his 15 years. So to have 2 keepers pushing each other now, 2 keepers who are 19 and I think 21, it's a super position to be in. And you'd imagine, as good a servant he's been to Ireland, like Randolph, he might have Euro 24 in him, but after that, like, you can't see him kind of staying on any longer.
Especially if he's not playing games, and the 2 young lads are playing matches. I think the talk of Kelleher going out on loan. Bazunu will definitely be going out on loan. And it's great to see Bazunu come out in the media saying he wants to be Man City's number one. Like, he's really ambitious. He's a quality young player. I even remember there's one time in the Andorra game where he went over, like, to get the ball. He went over, like, to his left, really far, nearly towards the corner flag, to, like, make an angle to get the ball. He just seems really comfortable with the ball at his feet, and really modern day goalkeeper, quality keeper. So him and Kelleher, both absolutely fantastic. So I was really impressed by the two of them. A player that I was delighted to see impress yesterday, Socko, I'm sure you felt the same about him. After a tough year, he came back into the back three, and I thought he was really good. Shane Duffy.
Yeah, definitely. Man, the match performance last night. Antonio O'Donoghue spoke to him very honestly, and he said, Shane Duffy said, I've had a really poor season. It's not gone anywhere near as good as I hoped. I think he's back at Brighton now, and kind of pre-season training.
Probably needs a move.
Yeah, I think so. But after the year he's had, I don't think he got much of a. He did play against Serbia, Luxembourg. I think he played against as well. Did he? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he featured. I don't think he played either. Maybe one actually.
But there's a lot of questions like, do you start O'Shea over Duffy? I think Duffy was dropped for one of the games anyway.
Definitely, yeah. But Clark played. I think Clark was playing, and Egan.
Yeah, but to come back, we've always said he hasn't put a foot wrong for Ireland. He's a proper captain. To come back shows his great character, and he was immense last night. Like, and not only in defence, like when we pushed up, when the wing backs pushed up, and I think Duffy pushed up a few times and won some great balls and kind of created stuff and tried to make things happen. He was huge. So hopefully now, like, I know the World Cup's kind of out of reach, but you'd love to see a few more of them performances from him. Performances that we got so used to seeing from him in the past, where he'd jump up and he'd win you 20, 25 headers in the game, you know, like.
Think about how consistent he was for us for years, and he had such a tough time off the pitch. Like, he had really tough circumstances in his personal life, and people, he's like, you need to cut him some slack at times. Like it's so tough. Like, he got crucified at Celtic, and people were tearing into him, and it's just so wrong when people know what he's gone through, and he's had a really tough time of it. So it kind of, you nearly get emotional thinking about, like, hopefully he's back now. And no, I was delighted to see him get man of the match yesterday, and I thought he fully deserved it, definitely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that footballers are human sometimes, and he might have lost his dad, but like, he's on $100,000 a week, so cop on, like, that sort of stuff you hear all the time, and like, it just makes no sense at all. So to come back the way he did last night, that'll do him the world of good now, because there's no games for almost 3 months now, no Ireland games, and definitely, like, against the likes of Portugal and Serbia, you'd love to have him there in good form.
For sure, he could be crucial. James McLean last night, Ocean Arthur says, was unreal in wing back last night. He obviously has been played left back against Andorra, probably through Enda Stevens' injury. He's probably been forced into that, maybe in an unfamiliar role. What did you think of him across the two games?
I think he struggled versus Andorra. I think he got found out fairly early on. Like, it's the classic James McLean. You just kind of cut down the wing and whip a ball across. Like, he'd very rarely come in on his right foot, you know. Probably started left back, you're right, because of Enda Stevens' injury, which kind of limits him a fair bit. But again, last night against Hungary, I thought he was terrific. And of course, he has that pace to get up and down the wing. Like, if we get caught on the break, he's back in left wing back really quickly. Put in a few really nice balls, kind of linked the play really well. A few nice touches with Parrott and Hourihane as well on that left side. And another fella like Shane Duffy, you always know he's going to give you 110%.
Yeah.
But I my only thing is, I just like to see him. I think he's a little bit predictable at times, which I think whoever's marking him picks up on. But
You
yeah,
know before the game what he's going to do. Like you don't even have to play against him. You know what he's up up to.
The
Like.
Sheffield goes, "Oh, like bomb it down the wing, whip it in." Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, pretty impressive. And another guy who like put up he loves putting up Ireland like Instagram posts and all. Like,
yeah. Good lad for the younger lads as well. You feel?
Yeah, 100%. That's what they were talking about in the interviews. Like, your Duffys, your McLeans, are great for the younger players, kind of bringing them through. Your Colemans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it might. Yeah, I'd be interested to see now if we stick to the back five in September. If McLean's impressed enough to nail down that position. There's a lot of interesting stuff there.
Yeah, I think against Portugal back five, against Serbia back five, against Azerbaijan back four, maybe something like that. Possibly might be the case. Daniel says, think if Portugal make the Euros final, we could beat them in September because they would be tired. I actually think it'd be better if Portugal went out early. I think if they won the tournament, they'd be flying. They'd be buzzing to be playing. Like they'd be dying for the next round of international fixtures. I think it'd actually be better if they left early on and we're kind of in disarray nearly. I think that would be better for Ireland personally. What would you think on that?
Yeah, obviously, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Like, I think winning final would be the start of July, and you still have 6 weeks then until the qualifiers. So, yeah, obviously, the earlier they go out, that gives us a slight advantage. But I think if it's a World Cup qualifier, it's a World Cup qualifier, and especially with Ronaldo there as captain, Bruno, the quality they have, I think that's a little bit of a stretch to take any comfort from that.
What did you think of Ogbene? Personally thought he was great, even though he only saw a few minutes of him. What did you think of him when he came on? Thought he was decent. Looked good.
Yeah, sorry, you're breaking off me a little bit. Ogbene, I think it was. Oh man, like he did more in 3 minutes than a lot of players did in an hour. Oh my god! And to almost score with your first touch for your country, like he was so close. It was a tight enough angle, but that would have been some headline.
Yeah.
And I think he had another effort just before the end as well. But got on the ball a lot, tried to make things happen. Just from that kind of little cameo, you'd know he'd run himself into the ground like kind of James McLean would, kind of Troy Parrott would. First African-born player to play for Ireland, which I think is really cool. I saw that tweet today. Obviously coming from Cork, I think it was Limerick. It was Cork, Limerick, and then he went to England. Currently Rotherham. So yeah, really bright prospect.
Absolutely, yeah. Another player impressed for me across the two games was Jason Knight. Thought he was really good, energetic midfielder, playing a couple of different positions as well. I thought against Andorra, I think he got an assist for Daryl Horgan. He obviously scored a goal himself, and James Collins absolutely robbed him of an assist as well. He should have got another assist there. Then last night, I thought he was good as well. He worked really hard for the team. He's really good on the ball. Looks like a real bright spark for Ireland and for Derby as well. He's been really good this season. So yeah, he looks like potentially even a future captain. Kind of has that vibe to him a little bit, I think.
Yeah, he's one of a few players that really impressed this international break. Like, he is some engine. Like, kind of reminded me of N'Golo Kante. Like, he just now, like 85 minutes, like, he's still running. Like, serious engine. Really bright young prospect. It'd be interesting to see now if he kind of stays at Derby or kind of moves away after the Euros. But yeah, always getting on the ball, never afraid of a tackle, trying to find other players, kind of making things happen. He's great there to have beside Cullen. Cullen beat that a little bit more defensive minded. Kind of gives Knight the license to kind of break forward. So I really like the Cullen in the middle and Knight just to the right of him. I think that's really impressed me the last 2 games. I think it's our strongest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, looks Blumby's been good and Cullen as well. So yeah, I think they're all kind of young lads as well. So it's real promising. And then of course we can't not mention Troy Parrott. Probably was not as great, obviously last night, tough opposition, but against Andorra, just having that, being that young player, just to be able to drive us on in games and really kind of pick the ball up and to make something happen when we need it to, and be the one that's gonna get us out of a hole and be the person to score. And I think you said it as well in your article, grab the game by the scruff of the neck. So I think yeah, I was impressed by Troy Parrott, and I think he deserved to start both games, and I was impressed across both. And he's so young still. Obviously, he needs a move, a loan move this summer. But I thought he did himself no harm in the 2 games of getting a decent move.
Like, to say he got us out of a hole there in Andorra, like, is an understatement. To score your first 2 international goals in 3 minutes. The first one was superb, taking the ball up from deep, driving forward, looking up. I think he beat like 2 or 3 men and then slotted it in the corner. And if you watch it back, there's one angle where you can see his face, and it looks like he's just screaming while he's running. And he just puts the head down, drives forward, and it totally, like, he just said, "Oh, fuck this," and just bombed it.
Yeah.
So that was great to see. I suppose he got a little bit lucky away from him for a second. I thought he was superb. Kind of dropping deep, collecting the ball, trying to make things happen. Obviously, he can score a goal, but he can find a pass as well, whether it's slotting through Curtis or Collins or Ida, who's ever beside him. I thought against Hungary, he, off the back of the Andorra game, sometimes it looks like he's trying too hard to impress, and he's going for balls or he's trying to make passes that kind of aren't on. He got dispossessed a lot in the first half against Hungary, I thought. But on the other hand, you can say that shows his commitment and his drive. He's always trying to get involved. But like, he's only young and he can only get better. And I was delighted for him against Andorra, for him to have that moment. Stuff of dreams, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Man of the match too.
Definitely, yeah, well deserved as well. Stood up when we really needed him to. Then moving on to which players we thought were kind of poor or disappointed with across the games. And this is mainly in the Andorra game, to be honest, because we weren't too bad last night, I didn't think. James Collins leading the line against Andorra. His first touch is poor. He should have scored. He missed an absolute sitter. I think it's time we stop giving him game time and we just look towards the future, because I just don't think he's cut out for it at all. I know he did score 10, 11 goals in the championship, probably our highest goal scorer in the highest league, but for me, he's just not cut out for international football at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree like that. That was such a bad miss versus Andorra at a time when, if we got 1-0 up, like, it takes so much pressure off. He got that goal against Serbia. I think that's his only international goal. I might be wrong. 5 minutes before the end in Serbia, but I just think he's so limited, and I'd much rather give the likes of the Parrott a chance, Curtis even, like, he's all right, but you just know he's just going to stand there, kind of hold the ball up, try to thread a ball through. I think he's just way too limited, and I'd much rather give the younger lads a chance.
It's breaking up a bit there. Just think we just lost Sacco there, but yeah, I think he's just touching on how we need to give the younger lads a chance over James Collins. Does everyone agree with that? I think everyone think everyone agrees that at this stage, especially the fact that we look like we're out of the World Cup at this stage, so it's probably better off to just move on from that. I think Ronan Curtis was another one I wasn't impressed by at all, to be honest. Ogbene looked better when he came off the bench. I think he's a better player than Curtis. I think Daryl Horgan's a better player than Curtis. Aidan McGeady, better player than Curtis every day of the week. I really don't like Ronan Curtis, to be honest. And against Andorra, I thought he was really, really poor, so wasteful. And yeah, I just don't rate him, to be honest. Let me know what you think of Collins and Curtis in the comments. But yeah, they're not for me at all, I don't think. I'm having a quick look into the comments now. Under Mick, we struggled against Gibraltar. Nearly went 1-0 down to them, only for Randolph. 3 goals in 180 minutes compared to 4 goals is an improvement. Yeah, I suppose you definitely have a case there, probably. But then you could argue that Mick would have beaten Luxembourg, so it's just one of those things, isn't it? Really, it's hard to know. Sokos should be back there now. Hello.
All right. Sorry about that.
How are things? No worries. We got what you were saying on Collins anyway.
My internet's like James Collins, inconsistent.
Another player that I was disappointed by, Sokko, actually, and I think you felt the same. I know you can say he's playing in the playoffs and he's probably one of our better players that you'd be expecting more of, but for me, he just didn't do enough and hasn't done enough in an Ireland shirt for a while now. Conor Hourihane, what did you think of him over the 2 games?
Yeah, 2 games that kind of passed him by. I'm not sure if you can hear me at the minute. I'll just keep talking.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting back there. Sorry. Yeah, 2 games that kind of seem to just pass him by. Like, it gets into a little bit of the second half, and you're like, "Geez, I forgot Hourihane was playing." Like, that's how kind of ineffective he was. Put in a few crosses that kind of failed to beat the first man, which is the most infuriating thing to watch. I think he took 1 or 2 free kicks that didn't really cause much too trouble as well. Too many misplaced passes. Just kind of lacks that bit of quality, and we have, as you said, we haven't seen him do it in Ireland shirt in a while. Probably that Georgia win early 2019 is the last time I can remember when Hourihane really stood up and you were like, "Geez, he had a really good game." One of the more experienced players in the squad, you'd be hoping he'd show a little bit more. So not his best 2 games.
No, not by a long stretch. A player that impressed was another one actually that I failed to mention was Daryl Horgan. I thought he was really good off the bench against Andorra. Off the bench last night as well, wasn't he? I thought definitely merited a start. I thought he probably deserved to start one of the games at least for me. Because I thought he was impressive in the previous international break as well, and he looks a good little player for our squad.
Definitely, like, I think one of the first times I can remember was I think it was the first 15 minutes versus England last winter, and he caused awful trouble down that wing, and created 1 or 2 of our best chances in the whole game. But definitely could have merited a start in the Hungary game. I don't think there'd be too many arguments there. One of our most creative players, I think, kind of reminds me a bit of maybe Robbie Brady back in the day, or even Wes, your Aidan McGeady's. Like, you always know he's going to create something or make something happen. Like when he came on yesterday, his first touch was, I think it was 30-40 yard pass into the box, and he took it down his chest and took a touch. I think Ida was really close to getting a touch on it, putting it in the back of the net. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah,
the absolutely savage touch. Like, I think he's quality. And hopefully he gets a lot of club minutes next season. So he is still in the Ireland conference. I think we've seen in his late 20s now, I think. Hopefully I'll definitely have him in the Ireland conversation. Even for the next campaign. A player that's always impressed me when he came on. Really, really creative, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, just seeing the
comments here. He scored his first goal versus Andorra.
Yeah, which is great to see. Yeah, great to get off the mark. Daryl Horgan, player of the international break, in my opinion, impacted both games off the bench really well, taking goal and assist against Andorra and created two big chances for last night for Ida and Ogbene. Interesting point here. Actually, think this transfer window probably the most important in Irish soccer, with so many young players needing game time and older players needing to find a new club. Might actually do a video on that because there's a lot of players. Like even go through all the keepers, there's like 2 or 3 keepers that could do it with a move. A lot of defenders, like everyone needs to move this summer. Like so, yeah, it's a crucial summer for Irish players in terms of leaving clubs and going out on loan and stuff as well. So yeah, that might be a video in itself that we'll look to do. Was very intrigued by Ogbene. Having such a fast, powerful winger offers us something truly different. I hope to see a lot more of him in future squads. Rob says Ogbene was probably our best player bar Duffy last night. Constantly wanted to take fellas on and to attack. However, 2 games against subpar opposition shouldn't grant false pretenses about the World Cup qualifiers. So Ogbene getting a lot of love in the comments today, and he's an exciting player, isn't he? Not sure if Soccer heard that. You there, Soccer?
No, sorry.
I was just asking about Chidozie Ogbene. He's getting a lot of positive comments. What did you make of him? He kind of looks like a real. I know we were talking about him earlier being the first African-born player, but he looks like a really exciting talent. Oh, okay. I don't think Soccer can hear me. All good. But yeah, no, like Ogbene was one that did really impress.
I think that was Luxembourg. I only got Luxembourg.
Hey, Soccer's gone. Lovely stuff. You can get him back in his ground for a few minutes. So, since beating Gibraltar this time 2 years ago, Ireland have only 1 win. Andorra last week. I can't believe this dipstick manager isn't gone yet. Yeah, listen, it's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. There's arguments for both ways, but I just think he hasn't even. I don't think he hasn't had a full squad even yet. I think it's harsh to say that he needs to go right now. I think give him time. I don't think you can look at the last 2 games and say that a bit of progress hasn't been made. I don't think so. I think that's probably unfair. Yeah. Who else did you get in as well? I do think it's possible to believe in the project, but not believe in the man leading it. I do think that's fair, and if you feel like that, that's fair enough. But I think we're along the right tracks here, and I think to uproot the manager now would just would cause chaos. Here he is.
Sorry, man.
All good.
Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sweet. I was just saying Ogbene, Keith, after coming into the comments here saying, we were talking about Ogbene there before, a lot of comments coming in about him. Did really well. Built up a bit too much. Was only 5 minutes against tired legs. I think Ida can go a long way. He has it all, in my opinion. Ogbene, even over someone like a Ronan Curtis, he offers so much more, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Built up a bit too much might be a bit harsh. Like he can only do what he can in the time he has in the field, and he did a lot more in 5 minutes than a lot of players did for a whole half. I think Ida is into his like 7th or 8th international cap by this stage, whereas that was Ogbene's first time in a senior camp. So I think they are definitely at both different stages of their development. But both are super talents. Ida really impressed me last night. Actually, I don't think I've mentioned him. Dropping deep, holding the ball up. He had a good chance from Horgan, and he had a good chance when the shot was on. He could have squared it to Knight. But nothing wrong with taking the shot on as well. You're just dying for him to get his first international goal now.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it'd be great for his confidence. But yes, Keith says I think there is clear progress. Is that the kind of final word on this international break? We've seen progress from Kenny.
I think so. I think these two matches, they're minutes in the legs. First of all, it's been his first extended COVID-free camp, so I think that training time has been invaluable. There's a few black spots. The goal against Andorra is very concerning. The first half of Andorra in general was pretty poor, which I think it's fair to ask, what were they doing on the training pitch for 10 days if we started so poorly against Andorra? But I think a few of them questions were answered last night. Like, we started brilliantly against Hungary. Our shape looks solid throughout. Everyone knew what they had to do. Everyone knew their job. I think everyone gave 100%, where there was a few passengers in the Andorra game. You can look at all the young players, Kelleher, Ogbene getting his debut. Last night, more minutes for Bazunu, Troy and Jason Knight getting their first international goals. Daryl O'Shea looking very, very comfortable in that centre-back role. I have a lot of time for Josh Cullen. He's really impressed me in both games. Super, and you can only see him kicking on next year for Anderlecht as well. I think there is progress there. There's a lot to pick at if you want to. But I think people should bear in mind that we always had a slim chance of qualifying for the World Cup anyway. I know that Luxembourg game was a really, really low point, but I think we'll only see the end result of this transition hopefully within the next European Championships. But I suppose Kenny's job will depend on if by the end of the World Cup campaign in November, if there's no clear progress, I don't think you can argue too much about that then.
Yeah.
But compared to last year, it's been much improved, you know?
Yeah. I think you can
what do
agree.
You think
yeah, because people that are saying, we had a comment before, I think you were gone when it came in. Someone said, since beating Gibraltar this time 2 years ago, Ireland have one win, Andorra last week. I can't believe this dipstick manager isn't gone yet. So I think, there's obviously everyone has the right to have an opinion on it, and obviously the results themselves, looking at them, just the results, they haven't been good enough. But I think it's a case of there's a lot of context to it. He's never had a full squad. Even still, Connolly, Robinson, two of our starting attackers weren't available for this camp. He's never had a full squad there. I think it's very, very harsh to judge him without a full squad, especially when we're bringing through some young players. Our squad's nowhere near the finished article. Like, we have a lot of poor players probably still in the squad that will look to move on. Like a lot of League One players and stuff like that. Like, I think League One is probably, we don't want any League One players in our squad. Nothing against the league, but it's a big drop off from where you need to be to qualify for tournaments. Realistically, it's just the reality of the situation. So I think he needs more time to put it right. And I think people can believe in the project without, but they can still think the manager is not the right man to lead the project. I think that's fair enough. Well, remains to be seen. I think he definitely deserves more time, but for the time being, I'm happy enough to stick with him. As you're saying, I think the next Euros qualification is going to be the big one, where he starts to get judged on the results more than anything. I think he's maybe bought himself some time with his record and the way he's bringing through a lot of young players, and he is trying to do things the right way and play. He's trying to play the right style of football, I suppose. So yeah, I think definitely. Keats is saying here, is worse. At worst, his legacy with bringing through young players. Not too many managers would have. Exactly, yeah. And that there's so much to be said for that. And I think Irish football will be in a much better place when Stephen Kenny has moved on from the Ireland job than when he took over. I think, which is a legacy in itself. I think so. Yeah. Anything else to add, Tucker?
No, that's really well said. Really well said. He said after the Andorra game, in one of the interviews, that I think someone asked him, so against the Hungarians now, much better opposition, would you be inclined to play more experienced players? And very confidently he said, just because we had a bad game, just because it's not working at the moment, that doesn't mean we're going to move away from what we're trying to do. We're not just going to scrap it after 2 games just because it's not working. So his whole philosophy is, bringing through all the young players and kind of possession-based football on the front foot, and just trying to change the way Irish football is viewed. And I think these 2 games have done him no harm at all. Hopefully we'll have fans back in the stadium in September to some capacity. These Portugal away on September the 1st, and then I think it's Serbia and Azerbaijan at home. 3 games in a week, very, very exciting, but massive nonetheless. So, and after every result, like, you'll always get a load of reactionary stuff. Like, even after the Andorra game, after the poor first half, you'll always get the reactionary stuff. But when the dust settles, and after this campaign, you can look at it and say, was there clear progression? Are a lot of them young players stepping up now? Is there a clear, cohesive plan within the squad? I think there's a huge difference in the performances in these last 2 games compared to maybe Luxembourg, but more so last year. There's a huge difference in the players, and I think the training camp has done them the world of good. Like, they can come out of these 2 games now and want to talk about the project and the manager, and they don't have to answer 10 questions about, like, that was a poor result, or that's a bad dressing room in there at the moment. So I think these 2 results have done them no harm at all. A lot of younger players getting more experience. The 2 keepers fighting for the jersey. There's a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely.
In 11 weeks' time.
100%, yeah. And it feels like for the first time in a while, there's a little bit of positive momentum going into the next round of qualifiers, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Socko, absolute pleasure as always.
Appreciate it.
Top man. We'll be back with Cautious Optimistic next Monday at 8, and we probably have 1 or 2 bits and pieces coming in the meantime. But thanks so much to everyone who tuned in. Please do drop a like on the stream if you did enjoy, and do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Much appreciated, guys. Catch us in a bit.